Well, it's noon here in Lagos, Nigeria. Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Kikilu, and here are the biggest political stories at this hour. Well, the highest court in the land has decreed that allocations from the Federation account shall now be paid directly to the local government, as it also barred governors from dissolving democratically elected officials for local governments. Appears to be a victory for local governance in the country, but will the governors go down without a fight? Well, we find out. Federal Executive Council removes universities from the IPIS payroll system, bowing to pressure from the Academic Staff Union of Universities, which has been at loggerhead with government over this. In a rather unusual development, the caretaker chairman in River State appoints 100 special assistants as aides. I'll begin with the breaking news, a groundbreaking ruling from the Supreme Court. Some say this has dealt a crushing blow to the stranglehold of state governors on local government funds and the sacking of elected chairmen, effective immediately. Well, the Supreme Court has directed that local government allocations should be paid directly to them. Well, let's take it to the courts now. At the resumption of a hearing today, the judge, Justice Emmanuel Agim, began by giving a background of the case. Justice Agim finds it unconstitutional that state governors hold onto funds meant for the 774 local government councils. He states that their refusal has gone on for over 2 decades and insists that it is the local government council that should manage their funds. He went on to dismiss the preliminary objections of the defendants, stating that the AGF has the right to institute the suit and protect the Constitution. He points out that the governor's retention of the monies meant for the local government truncates their activities. The governors were also barred from dissolving democratically elected officials for local government. Doing so will amount to a breach of the 1999 Constitution. The suit, filed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, requested that Apex Court authorize the direct transfer of funds from the Federation account to local government in accordance with the Constitution. It's a groundbreaking judgment, but still a developing story, and we'll bring you the updates as soon as they come in from the Supreme Court and even from the governors. But staying with the judiciary now, judges who give misleading and conflicting judgments will face the consequences of their actions. Well, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwoola, issued the warning during the inauguration of 22 Court of Appeal justices and 12 judges of the FCT High Court in Abuja. The CJN also announced that the National Judicial Council has already activated the process of addressing such conduct, which he describes as an embarrassment to the judiciary. Our correspondent, Emmanuel Kelly, reports.
The ceremonial courtroom of the Supreme Court is filled to its brim as friends and family members gather for the swearing-in of the newly appointed justices of the Appellate Court and the Federal Capital Territory High Court. Former Chief Justices of the Supreme Court, governors, the FCT minister, whose wife is being elevated to the Court of Appeal, traditional rulers and judges of lower courts are in attendance. The Supreme Court justices, led by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, arrived at the hall. One after the other, the new justices take their oath of allegiance.
I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help me God.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria presides over the swearing-in ceremony and admonishes the justices on what is ahead of them.
With your Lordship's elevation to the higher bench today, you have to be very mindful of the enormous confidence the public is now reposing in you vis-a-vis their expectations. Like is often said, to whom much is given, much more is expected. Your lordships must not rest on your horse, as the onus now lies more heavily on you to discharge your judicial duties more dispassionately, discretionarily, and transparently.
The CJN as punitive measures are in place for erring judges who give conflicting judgments and frivolous orders.
Several cases of such abound across the length and breadth of the country. You are aware of this. This is largely an embarrassment to our jurisprudence, and we will never undo it with levity. Punitive measures must definitely be meted out to such erring judges, at whatever stage. We have already activated the process of reining in such errant judges with a view to making them face the consequence of their despicable and odious conduct.
Some government officials applaud the judiciary for more inclusion of women into the arm of government.
In the case of Nigeria, it's actually, if you like, a bigger, we're standing on a tripod, but I would dare to say that the judiciary is a redeeming tripod for Nigeria. Because if everything else fails, if the judiciary fails, then the entire country unravels.
The role of the women, we know, is very important in any situation. Women, they are people of integrity. They will always stand for what is right, to pass the judgment that is right.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria urges the newly elevated judges to hit the ground running and ensure fair dispensation of justice to all Nigerians. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Until labor issues now, President Bola Tinubu is expected to meet with members of organized labor at the Presidential Villa Abuja today for further consultation on the new national minimum wage. The invitation was sent to the two labor unions, that's the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. But before now, the tripartite committee on the new minimum wage concluded the negotiations a month ago, actually, and have since presented their recommendations to the president. While the organized labor insisted on a 250,000 naira minimum wage, the government and organized private sector recommended 62,000 naira. Well, those two positions are expected to be considered, and then a figure sent to the National Assembly in an executive bill, which will be passed into law to repeal the existing national minimum wage law. The Federal Executive Council has directed the removal of the universal system from the Integrated Personal and Payroll Information System IPIS platform. Well, this was part of resolutions reached at the council meeting presided over by the president at the State House yesterday. According to the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, the directive on the separation of the universities from the IPIS platform was given to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator Judge Akume, and this is expected to address the long-standing issue between the Academic Staff Union, ASU, and the government. Staying with that meeting, in a bid to ensure better budget implementation, the president has called for a review of all planned procurement of ministries, departments, and agencies, especially some major projects of the Ministry of Works. And our State House correspondent Larry Lassisi reports that the council is also working to pursue and amend the legislation on the National Council on Procurement to make it more robust.
Cabinet ministers and other members of the Federal Executive Council are gathered in the council chamber for their meeting. Joining them are 8 new Federal Permanent Secretary designates who are to be sworn in. Once the president arrives, that is the first item on the agenda. The permanent secretary designates had their citations read and their oaths of office administered in 2 batches of 4.
I will discharge my activities to the best of my ability, faithfully and in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The meeting then dissolved into a closed session. Afterwards, some ministers briefed State House correspondents on the resolutions.
Mr. President has directed that all projects that require additional funding, especially major projects of the Ministry of Works, be looked at once again so that there will be further deliberation on that at the next council meeting.
He said most of the road projects were inherited from 13 years ago and not part of the newly approved roads, such as the Lagos-Calabar Highway. Council also considered the law guiding the National Council on Procurement and took some decisions on the recent procurement plans of all ministries, departments, and agencies.
Mr. President directed that a good basis for performance, especially when it comes to infrastructural development, is to ensure that we have a solid procurement act in order to avoid corruption and also stem the tide of abandoned projects.
The president has also given the head of service till next week to come up with a structure for the new Ministry of Livestock Development. From the State House, Landry Lasese, Channels Television News.
Well, what a lot of people were maybe hoping to see from the FEC meeting, and some of the resolutions will be on the current petrol scarcity and the hike in the price of petrol. And in some other areas, no petrol supply in filling stations. But that didn't quite come through from the FEC, at least from what people heard from the ministers and those who were at that meeting. But the NNPCL had released a statement some days ago blaming the current situation on logistics and flooding. But this persists in areas and people still struggling to buy petrol either at the approved price or at filling stations who have shut down totally. So let's get some more insight into exactly what is going on, what the practitioners are hearing from the government. We're joined on the program by the National Secretary of IPMAN, that's the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Sir John Kekiocha, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good afternoon, and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. A lot of Nigerians were watching, I inclusive, watching to see if there will be any pronouncement from FEC on the petrol situation. Not to worry, that will be resolved. But let me just give a background. For those staying in the nation's capital, Abuja, they've had to endure this for over a week now, and for them it's the third time this year that they're going through petrol scarcity. Some in Abuja buying for 1,100, some in Kaduna for 1,200, in Lagos over 700 or even more. So we have a current challenge on our hands, and I wonder, being IPMAN, you interface with NNPCL, you interface with other players in this sector. Is there hope in sight, particularly from the NNPCL, the regulators? Are you seeing any flicker of hope, Mr. Kekiocha?
Sometimes when we have this epileptic supply of petroleum products, it's usually as a result of some hiccups in the supply chain. Recently, what we witnessed was scarcity, perennial in most of our towns. But the actual cause was because of the shortage in supply, which when we had interface with retailers, they explained to us that they had some hiccups in their supply chain, which they have done everything possible to ameliorate. As we speak, Abuja is beginning to have a good supply of petroleum product, which I know is circulating the whole states. A week ago, there were very few stations that were selling fuel, but right now, a good number of filling stations in Abuja are selling fuel, and I'm sure it is equally the same thing in other states. What problem Nigeria goes through is once you have a short supply in 2 days, it takes another 1 week to remedy it. But we are very sure with the promises given to us by retailers we met 2 days ago, they were very emphatic in their logistics having been corrected, and the supplies will flow as usual.
Been over a week now for some. So when you say as usual, should we be expecting the supply to flow from tomorrow? Maybe from today, who knows? Yes. As I said the other time, for some time now, Warri Depot did not have supplies. But as we speak, there are supplies to Warri.
as discussed by retail, by today, tomorrow, the ship will discharge. And you see most of the trucks that bring product to the north and to Abuja per se normally load from Warri. So once Warri is weighted with product, all other trucks that normally go to load in Warri will start getting load, and it will gradually circulate, and the scarcity will be eased off.
So what happens to those who are, on the one hand, taking advantage of the situation and marking up outrageously? That's one. What happens to those who were meant to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this position? Because as a nation, you expect that once people are put in position, they should plan ahead and ensure that something as vital as petrol is not wanting. So on the two levels, those who are making profit outrageously and those who are responsible for maybe not planning ahead or not properly handling this. Yes, please go ahead.
The thing is that because product, PMS particularly, is deregulated, marketers are free to buy product from anywhere they can have source and sell. Officially, the only source man gets product, marketers get product, is through the NNPC retail. But when we don't get enough from NNPC retail, we don't have any option that to buy from the tank farms. And absolutely, the tank farms sell higher than the NNPC retail. And because there is deregulation, in those days, when there was deregulation, there was no deregulation, and then DPRA will go out for marketers to check whether they are selling at official rates and official prices. But right now, there is no official rate anymore. That is why you can see some people selling 700, some people selling 680, some people selling 690. You know, and it depends on where you want to buy, you go and buy. So right now, nobody can say people are selling at very high prices because you don't know how much they got to the products. Because what we get from tank farms and far more than what we get from retails. So when people buy from, you can't leave your station empty. You cannot leave to wait your station because prices are high. If you buy it high, surely you want to mark up and sell to make some gain. So when people see it in that nature, they will say, marketers have increased price. Marketers didn't increase price. They are just selling a little above what they bought. So, but when we get from retail, which price is far cheaper, we sell at a reasonable price, which everybody will appreciate. So it is only when we don't get from retails and we get from other tank farms and we sell, then there will be that apprehension that they have increased price. Nobody increased price. There is no price regulation in this country anymore, in as much as the regulation has come to stay.
Well, it's a rather ironic situation because you will hear that the federal government is still paying subsidy. So what level of deregulation are we witnessing? It's a very tricky one, but what Nigerians want at the end of the day is to be able to buy petrol at an affordable rate. So we'll look forward to this easing of the bottlenecks, as you have said, and we wish you the very best. We're speaking with the National Secretary of IPMAN, Mr. John Kekiocha, who's been providing some insight into this fuel scarcity situation. Thank you once again for your time. We'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to the Supreme Court, that legal battle that has now culminated in, well, a victory for local government autonomy. We'll bring you more on that in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now back to our breaking news from the Supreme Court in the nation's capital, Abuja, a landmark judgment for local government autonomy. It's been years, some say even decades, in the making. But our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, joins us. She's been following this, and she brings us live reporting from the Supreme Court. Emanuela, what a day, really. All eyes on the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has delivered. But can you walk us through what exactly the Supreme Court decided upon today, and perhaps the implications? Well, Emanuela, it's quite simple. The judgment has been delivered. The implications quite huge. But for those who are wondering, what exactly is this case about? Can you just walk us through what the court decided upon today to begin with? Well, our correspondent, Emanuela Kelly, she's at the Supreme Court, and we'll be definitely getting across to her to also give us a feel of the atmosphere, some of the nuances that played out there. Don't forget, this is a case that was instituted at the court by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Lateef Fagbemi. It's something that has been in the works for quite some time now. The previous government tried with the NFIU guidelines, but the governors went back to court, and it's been a back and forth ever since. But now the Supreme Court, the very highest court in the land, has decided on this. So, Emanuela,
of the 774 local government chairmen of Nigeria. Now, from the judgment that just came out this morning, all funds from the federal government account go straight to the local government chairmen, like what was found in time past, that it was formerly the state governors that were in charge of these funds for the local government. But now, going forward, according to the words of Justice Emmanuel Agim, henceforth, means immediately, all funds from the federation account will go straight to the local government chairman. Now, there's a little clause in that, because the justices also said that caretaker chairmen are not entitled to these monies. So now basically there's some states who run caretaker committees. Now the court have said that these monies will not be entitled to them, only to democratically elected local government chairmen. And now this shows that now going forward, the local government can now develop in terms of infrastructure, in terms of roads, in terms of hospitals. They can now develop the local government, and it has made the local government pretty attractive to those who may want to vie for that seat.
Very, very interesting development there from the Supreme Court. It's a big day, really, for governance in Nigeria. We look forward to seeing what the governors will have to say about this, either individually or from the Nigeria Governors Forum. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reporting live from the Supreme Court there. But let's get some more insight into this one, some legal perspective. And we're joined on the program by Dean College of Law, Chrisland University, Mr. Kayode Akinshola, joins us virtually on the program this afternoon. Well, Mr. Akinshola, I know we've all been looking to this day to see how the Supreme Court will decide. First, are you surprised? Secondly, what is the first implication that comes to mind for you in terms of operationalizing this judgment?
Now, I feel very, and it's something that we have actually welcomed. We have fought for it. We have clamored for it. When we look at the local governments in Nigeria, almost all of them, they are in the comatose because they are in the pockets of the state governors in their various states. I will give a very good example. Recently, if we remember, there was a particular local government chairman in Ogun State that spoke up that he has not received allocation from the federal government. And as such, there were issues. It landed in court. We went to court to challenge it, but I will not want to say much of that because it's a matter that is still pending before the court. But by and large, this is a welcome development. I want to salute the courage of the president and that of the...
My name is Ella Emanuela.
I want to salute of Mr. President as that of the Attorney General of the Federation for these particular feats that they have actually attained. And there's going to be a couple of challenges when you look at it in the operationalizing of this particular judgment that was delivered. The question that we need to ask ourselves, firstly, is that will these new accounts be opened by the federal government for each of these local governments? Are we going to have these current local government chairmen being the signatory to all these accounts? Don't forget that the incumbent governors in each of these states, they were the one that appointed, I won't say elected now, they were the one who appointed some of these local government chairmen in office. Now, if an account is created in all the 774 local governments of the Federation, and you have a proxy of some of these governors who are still in the office, don't forget that part of the prayers is that we should have the INEC conducting the election of the local government. That is not without its own challenge too. But it must be said at this point that there are some ancillary reliefs that should go alongside with this judgment. Whether it is the federal government that is going to open each of these accounts directly for this local government, which will be directly monitored under the Federal Ministry of Finance, and also the finance of the local government, as well as the operandi, who will be the chief law officer that will determine some of this narrative. I want to believe that it should be the Attorney General of Federation, right, not the Attorney General of the state. Because if you still leave the legal framework in the hand of the Attorney General of states,
then we'll be back to square one.
What we are going to say
then we'll literally be back to square one. It appears that's what you're trying to say, that we'll be back to square one if that's the case. Am I correct? Mr. Akinshola, this is a conversation we need to have a proper sit down for, but because it's still breaking news, I wanted to get a quick one from you just to get some more insight. But not to worry, the coming days, there'll be a deep dive into it. But I'd like to thank you so much. The short time we've spent has proven very vital. We've been speaking with Mr. Kayode Akinshola, Acting Dean, College of Law, Chrisland University. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's been the program for today, but always by no means an end to the conversation. Politics never takes a rest. So stay with Channels Television as we give you all of the breaking news and development stories. I'm Kayode Akinshola. Goodbye.